Hi, everybody. Welcome to our program. This is David Nevins for City Biz, and thank you so much for joining us today. Our guest today is Audrey Cooper, and she is the editor in chief of The Banner. Audrey, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. I almost introduced you as the editor in chief of the Baltimore Banner, which many of our viewers know that that's how your publication started in service to Baltimore. Now you have grown quite a bit. So tell us a little bit about the Banner and your purpose and objective and how it's going.
Oh man, that's a lot. Well,
I
first of
know.
all, you can call me anything. I respond to a lot of different names,
Okay.
and so does the banner. No, you're right. Well, the banner is, I believe, if not the most, one of the largest nonprofit local news organizations, not only in Maryland but the entire United States. And we also believe we have the largest newsroom in Maryland. So those are two really important things to describe, I think our commitment to Maryland, to Baltimore, and now, as you point out, as of about 3 months ago, to Montgomery County as well. And I would say, like, at the end of the day, what the banner is here for is to do what local journalists do best, which is help people have civic conversations about what's happening in their community, to be engaged and informed voters, and to shine the spotlight when things are going right in our communities and also when things sometimes go wrong.
Yeah, I think a lot of our viewers and certainly your readers recognize the importance today of local media. And I guess I would say, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe you'll just add to this. With people getting so much news from the likes of Facebook and Instagram and what have you, none of that really is local. That's You can grab all the national headlines you want off of those places, but you fulfill a different role. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, this is my soapbox, if you would indulge me to be on it for just a second, which is, I think, I'm not breaking any news here when I say America is not in the best place. We are arguably more divided than ever as Americans. And if you ask me why that is, I think it's because we've actually lost so much local news in this country. We can have very sometimes even violent debates over national cultural issues that, if we're being honest, don't affect our daily lives all that much. Important issues, but what's happening in other states does not affect you or me as much as, is our education system in Maryland working? Are our roads paved? Is our air clean? Is it safe to drink the water? All of these issues, I think, is where we can actually find common ground and productive conversation as Americans. So when I think about the crisis in local news that's happening nationally, I really think saving local news is the answer to saving America and the American experiment, to be honest. So that's a very, as my grandmother would say, highfalutin answer for what you asked. But I don't think we have a more urgent need to problem to solve in America than the issue of local news. And I think, I came to the banner because I think we have the best ability to show how to save it, and that this is an experiment not only for Baltimore, for the surrounding region, for all of Maryland, but it's really a national experiment that we're playing out.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. And if you go by the saying in politics that all politics is local, then it would be a natural expansion to suggest that the most important news coverage, as you articulately pointed out, would be local as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all have a national issue that gets our blood pumping. But if we're being honest, I think, the issues that are being decided in our backyard are the ones that are going to have the most impact on our lives and on our children's lives.
Right. And that's what the banner is there to do, quite obviously.
That's what we're doing every day.
So before you got to the banner, Audrey, which is I believe maybe only in the last few months, you had a very distinguished journalism career yourself. Could you share with us a little bit about your background in that regard?
Oh, that's very nice of you to say. So I think I'm maybe on day 90. Maybe this is my anniversary today. I think I'm at the point where I've stopped counting the days, but I've only been here about 3 months. And prior to that, I was for 5 years the editor-in-chief at WNYC, which is the country's largest NPR affiliate, and also the largest locally focused news organization in New York City. But before that, I was the editor-in-chief of the San Francisco Chronicle, where I've spent most of my career. I was there for 14 years and the editor for about 6.5 years. So this is my third newsroom to lead, and it already feels like home.
Well, that's really nice to hear. And you joined an organization that, really in its infancy, has already won a Pulitzer Prize. Tell us about that a little bit and what the future holds for the readers of the Banner.
Well, I think it's really interesting to me because I get asked a lot, like, why did you come to Baltimore? And I don't think people here appreciate that the Banner already has a national reputation, not only for the ambition of the business itself, but the ambition of the journalists. And we have a newsroom covering the state of Maryland that's bigger than the one I had in New York City, which is a much bigger, much bigger area to cover in terms of population. So I think, we're going big with our ambitions here. And the journalists themselves, I'm constantly impressed by how many of our journalists were born in Baltimore, born in Maryland, have spent their entire careers here, and the depth of knowledge they have about this community and their neighbors is something that to be honest, I've never seen in my entire career. Both New York and San Francisco are relatively transient places. So it's a real honor to be able to work with people who feel such a sense of place and a dedication to where they grew up and decided to stay.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's why it's called Small-to-More every now and then, at least. And so you mentioned, I think earlier, that you are moving news coverage also into Montgomery County, which our viewers know is a prominent suburb of the Washington, D.C. Area. What are some of your goals and objectives there, if you don't mind my asking?
I mean, it's not any different than our goals for the Banner, which is to save the world through local news coverage. That's it. But I think, Montgomery County is such an interesting place because, as you mentioned, you can throw a rock and hit the Capitol, and a lot of people there work in the District of Columbia, but and there are lots of journalists covering what happens in DC and virtually none covering what happens in Montgomery County. So when, the great thing about the Banner is that as a nonprofit, we really can be very mission oriented and thinking about where our focus is needed. And when we looked at the state, it was definitely one of the areas, in the business they called a news desert, which is to say there's nothing to drink there. There's very, very, very little news coverage. Unfortunately, national publications have pulled back on local news coverage in service to a national audience. And there is a incredible hunger there for more information about local decisions that are being made. And even we had a story about the best bagel in Montgomery County. And I'm telling you, that comment section on that story was active. There's a real need for service journalism, for local coverage there. And so we have an entire newsroom dedicated to serving the people there.
That's really great. And I won't ask if you recall the winner of the best bagel
Oh, no.
competition.
um, you'll have to read the article.
Yeah, I'll check it out
It
myself.
was
I did.
controversial, I'll tell you that. It was
Yeah, I'm sure. I did grow up in Montgomery County, but I don't recall the best bagel. So I'll check the banner for that. I know you, Audrey. You're on the obviously the editorial side of the publication, and you oversee the staff of journalists. Are you able to talk to us a little bit about the growth and the impact of the banner in terms of number of readers and subscribers and all that good stuff?
Sure. We have a giant, well, actually we have two giant TVs in the newsroom that are always showing our statistics. And we're at 75,000 subscribers right now. We have very ambitious goals for the next year to add substantially to that. And it's one of the reasons that I came here because I think what's so exciting about the banner is it was born, it won a Pulitzer, one of the youngest publications ever to win a Pulitzer Prize for its reporting. And now I I liken it to being a little bit in its awkward teenager phase. And now it's really up to us to get it to where it will be a sustainable institution, not just for the end of my career and the journalists who live here, but for their children and their grandchildren. And it will endure, it will endure 100 years from now, which is what the best media institutions, I think, have done.
Yeah, let's hope so for sure. Can you share a few details about the newsroom itself? I think a lot of our viewers, people don't know what the operation of a newsroom consists of, and how many reporters, and do you tell them what to write about? Do they suggest to you what they're going to write about? I think it would be an interesting. I know it's a complicated process, but maybe a few little interesting tidbits behind the scenes of a growing media organization might be
Oh,
interesting to hear.
I love that question. I'm not sure it's interesting to anyone except you and me, maybe, but yeah, one misconception I get a lot is people think I assign every story and that I edit every story. And I have to tell you that is not what I do at all, and not what you should want me to do either. A lot of my job is setting an editorial vision for the newsroom. So in general, saying like in broad strokes what we're trying to accomplish and what we cover, setting up a structure and an org chart and putting people in the places to be able to execute that. But a lot of my job is translating business objectives to journalists and explaining journalist objectives to the business side. Um, and that's what makes me get up in the morning. But I can assign stories. Sometimes I do, but more often than not, I work with my editing team to sort of bring contextual relevance to pieces. So if a reporter has an idea for a news story, how can we make that approachable to the most amount of readers? How do we help people make sense of it? And it's very collaborative work. So the days of like one editor telling everybody what to write, if they ever existed, which I'm not sure they did, they
Right.
definitely don't exist now.
So I know, no, that well put, and I find your answer, interesting in that regard. I know that you, as a publishing organization, a journalism organization, I know you're trying to always connect with your readers and the like, and in doing so, there are ways that they can connect with you too. I know you have a lot of events and activities and meet the reporter kinds of sessions. Anything you can share with us in that regard, and what 2026 might look like from that
Yeah,
perspective?
I think thank you for asking because it's one of I've outlined some five goals for our team this year, and one of them is really doubling down on our community outreach. It's something the banner was really well did really well in our early days, and I think we need to do even more. There's not too much community listening that you can do, and I think one of the reasons, people are a little suspicious or distrustful of mainstream media is because how many average people have ever met a journalist? It's not very many. And the more we can be in dialogue about what we cover, how we cover it, listening to feedback when we don't do our best job and also like explaining why we do things. Like I think that is critically important. When I was the editor of the San Francisco Chronicle, I would joke that I would be at a cocktail party and I'd tell people what I did and they would say, "Oh, you know what? I love the Chronicle. You know what I don't like about the Chronicle?" And they wouldn't even say what they liked before they told me what I should be doing differently. And
Right.
some people might think that's a terrible way to go about their job. I love it because it means that people really care about what you do and they have an opinion about it and they want to see you succeed. So I think it's a public trust. And to do that, we need people to show up to our events. So go to our website, sign up for our email list. We're going to be doing a lot more of them in 2026.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. And as you know, Audrey, I'm in the marketing and PR business, and I for many years I taught it as well. And I think it's really important what you're doing in terms of letting people out in the community meet journalists and get to know them and understand what their job is and certainly be able to mutually share information. I know that I remember I used to uh, teach early on in my classes, and everybody who's seeing this has watched certainly a certain number of episodes, let's say of 60 minutes, and where the reporter knocks on an office door and then the person behind the door opens it a crack and then slams it shut and no comment, or there's nobody here, and I would say that's not really a good look, right? It
No.
makes you guilty before you have a chance to prove your innocence. So again, I think what you're doing in terms of getting reporters out into the community, giving your readers an opportunity to get to know your team can only ultimately have a beneficial effect.
Yeah, I agree. We don't
So
go banging on doors with the cameras very often. That's pretty
no,
unusual. It's
but
good to
no, but we've
see,
all
but
we've
not
all
actually
watched
how it works.
we've all seen that on 60 Minutes, right? In terms of
Yeah.
we're going to see if anybody's home. We're going to see if anybody's in the office. So, Audrey, you talked a couple times about people visiting your website. How does one subscribe to the banner, learn more, attend an event? Where should they go?
You can go to our website, sign up for a newsletter. You'll get redirected to do one of those actions when you go to our website. Or you can download our app. We have a great app in the Apple Store or the Samsung Store. So those are all good places to come to find us.
That's great. And so, Audrey, lastly, you've been in San Francisco a number of years. You've been in New York, two cities with pretty vibrant, I'll say, restaurant scenes. Do you have a favorite yet in Baltimore? Where have you been? What do you like?
That is the most dangerous question you've asked me yet, and you know it. Uh, that is, I'm not a politician, but I'm going to do a politician thing and demur and say I haven't been to enough. But I love the suggestions, and I have an active notes app. If anytime I'm in a lift or at a store, I always ask people where to go eat. So my email is audrey@thebanner.com. Send me suggestions.
Okay, and yes, I didn't want to hurt you there with that question. I know many of them advertise in your publication, so you want to keep everybody happy and. Uh,
That's not even it. I haven't had enough days here to even try 10% of the ones that have been
Okay.
suggested.
Well, let me suggest to you that the Baltimore restaurant scene is listen, in all honesty, it may not quite be New York and it may not quite be San Francisco, but I think you'll find it to be outstanding and vibrant and plenty of great spots to choose.
Well, I appreciate you also not asking me about the difference between our crabs and the San Francisco crabs too. That's the other dangerous question that
Yeah.
I will not answer. No, I'll
No,
say I'm very into the Baltimore crabs.
good. I'm happy to see that, and then of course the Orioles and the Ravens. You have to become fans of
Well,
theirs as
you
well.
know, before I just bought opening day tickets,
Okay,
so I've done my part toward becoming an Orioles fan.
that's great. Well, opening day is just around the corner.
Yep.
Anyway, Audrey Cooper, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to Baltimore as the new editor in chief of the Banner. And we've enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you.
Absolutely. This is David Nevins for City Biz, and thank you so much for watching today.